All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much to everyone out there, as always, for listening, for watching, following, subscribing. I appreciate you all very much. Today's episode, as always, is presented by Sunny Reds, 1531 Aber Road, Lackawanna, just minutes down the road from Highmark Stadium. If you're watching this on the video side by chance, as usual, we are live here on a Sunday night, which means, as usual, I am joined by Joe from Queens. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, man. I just got back from God, what the hell was I? Pennsylvania. I went to the Great Wolf Lodge or something. I always get the fucking name mixed up. It's
Where
like
in Pennsylvania is that? I never heard of it.
It's in like northern part or whatever, like we're on the border of Jersey. So like it's in a place called Scrotum, Pennsylvania, which I don't think it's named after balls, but who knows? But it's called the Wolf Lodge. There's a bunch in the U.S. There's actually one in like Ontario, like in Niagara Falls somewhere, and basically it's like a water park. Yeah, I'm tired. It was fun. Saw a lot of Bills people in like Bills outfits.
Yeah.
And like outfits, but in Bill's gear or whatever the case you want to call it. I got a lot of, and you might know this. Well, maybe you don't, because obviously you're in Florida. We've talked about being like expats at different junctures, but
Sure.
I had like 2 or 3 people like go up to me because I wore Bill's gear because I always wear Bill's gear when I go on vacation. I don't care. I just fuck it. I get there and like a couple people were like, still month later. Tough loss. I'm like, yeah, I know, guys. I'm well aware of that, and it's different because it's like usually when I would wear Bill's stuff before, like during the draft, I don't know, I didn't really get much of anything. It was kind of like, oh, you're from Buffalo, whatever. But like now that they're good and they're breaking hearts across America, it's just like, tough loss, and I'm just like, yeah, because it's something that I'm sure you don't get when you're in Buffalo. Like no one's gonna come up to you and go tough loss like after a Bills game because they're all Bills fans, but there it's just like. I'm like, yeah, I know, tough loss, ass. I get it, but they weren't doing it to troll me. It was just like, oh man, like you know
I
what I
think
mean?
it's genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. I feel.
I still have, good friends in Florida that I've maintained contact and relationships with, and as the bear cracks. When I talk to some of them, sometimes I still get that. They're talking to me like I still would be in mourning. Shout out, by the way, Nicholas on the podcast who's watching it live on the video side says, hey guys, a big shout out from Sydney, Australia. All right, man. Been loving the updates postseason and enjoying your thoughts. Appreciate that. I'll let people know too. A couple comments here. We'll get into your bear and then we'll roll into the show. A couple quick things to note at the very beginning. If you want to leave a comment, if you are watching this on the video side live, you want to leave a comment, I'll throw a couple of them up as we go along if it fits to where we're talking about. Some of them I'll save for the end of the show. Also want to let you know that Tuesday night, March 4th, that's going to be episode 1000 of Talking Buffalo. And to celebrate that, I'm going to do a live show, Sunny Reds, Tyler Dunn, and Joe Buscaglia, man, 2 of the very best sports journalists, not just in Buffalo, but in all the business, are going to join me, Sunny Reds, Tuesday night, March 4th, 8 p.m. If you happen to be in the area, stop up, say hi. Very friendly people. If not, make sure you catch it on the live stream. But yeah, Joe, 2 of the very best to do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, whose idea was it to get Joe B on? I wonder whose idea was it?
It was yours.
It was mine. Thank you. Give me no credit at all. Again, just it's like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. They don't credit Vince McMahon for booking it. No, I mean bad. Maybe it's too soon for that with him, but I see how it is. I see how it is, buddy.
That's fair. Like I said, so leave comments. I'm telling you about that show. I'm also going to give you a 2-week warning, not you, everybody out there right now. Joe and I have both watched the finale, the final 5 episodes of Cobra Kai. We've been talking about the series pretty much since it's been on the air. It just wrapped up. We'll give you a 2-week warning. So if you're a fan of Cobra Kai or you're interested in watching Cobra Kai, get after it, because 2 weeks from now or so, we're going to get together and we'll definitely devote a segment near the end of the show purely to Cobra Kai. Without giving,
what we should do. What we should do. What? I'm sorry to interrupt you, buddy. We should do like a Mount Rushmore, or not much. We should do like a draft maybe of Cobra Kai characters, maybe.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
That could
I'm
be
down with
fun.
that.
And we could do, I mean, there's a lot of great characters, and we just do it based off like the series. I think we should do that. That would be kind of fun.
I completely agree. I would definitely be down
Right.
with that for sure. All right, so
Cool.
get your Cobra Kai in out, folks. Like I said, leave some comments if you want to have them read at some point of the show or at the end. Today we're going to cover some Buffalo Bills stuff. James Cook appeared on a show with Chad Johnson and who the hell's the other guy? Shannon Sharp. I'm going to play the clip actually for you guys if you didn't hear James Cook in just a minute here, and you and I will react to that. So we'll talk about that. One of my guests that I talked about coming up on episode 1000, Joe Buscaglia, wrote his annual Buffalo Bills mock-off season for The Athletic. I thought it was very entertaining, resourceful, very thorough. You and I are going to kind of break down how he thinks the Bills offseason could go. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk about the Four Nations face-off that just recently happened. We'll hit on that a little bit as well. Kind of like a couple things stemming off that. My wife asked me a question involving Connor McDavid, and I want to tell you guys about that later and kind of lead that into a Buffalo sports conversation. We'll get to some other things too a little bit later in the show. So that's what we got going on today. Again, thank you everyone for jumping in the live chat or, watching this or listening to this on demand. Like I said, we always appreciate you. Let's start here. We'll get right to the James Cook clip. So James Cook, we already know it's not really new news. He was on his Instagram not long ago and said that he wanted $15 million a year. And then he was on the show with Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson. And look, hear from the horse's mouth. This isn't media. This isn't you and I. This isn't fan speculation. This is James Cook himself. So for everyone out there, I'm going to play the clip. It's about a minute and a half or so. And then we'll come back and we'll react to it. So here's that clip.
Like, we just do so much, like, just like by going to practice and doing all the little shit right. And I just feel like we deserving of it. Like why not? Like, shit, we work all our life to get paid. Like, feel me, the big bucks. Like, shit, why not, bro? Like, I want to go chase the highest of the highest. Like, and I'm gonna keep doing it. Like, and I'm gonna stand on what I stand on. Like, and I don't want to feel like a cancer at all, because I don't like all that attention and all that. Like, that's not me. Like, honestly, like, and I'm just standing on business, man. And what
if you think about it, go ahead. No, go ahead, finish up.
That's it. What I deserve.
If you think about it, James, since McCaffrey got that $16 million, nobody's even come close to that number. And so now you're going to uncharted territory. You look at what Saquon got. I think Saquon got about 13.5. You saw what Derrick Henry got. He got about 8.5. You see what Josh Jacobs got. I think he was around 12, 11.5, 12. So when you say you want to be the highest paid and McCaffrey is at the number that he's after, you're reaching for the stars, or you hope you land on the moon and get something close to that, or you want to jump over that.
And I just want to get what I deserve. Shit, that's all.
All right, so that was James Cook again on the show. And by the way, the one thing I will say, Shannon Sharp was a little bit inaccurate on some of his reporting on what some of the numbers were. Like Christian McCaffrey, for an example, he's at 19 million, not 16. He said that. And then he talked about Henry only being at around 8.5 or so. Actually, that's relatively accurate. Never mind. Now that I see that, I stand corrected. But anyway, for the most part, he was a little bit inaccurate with McCaffrey. But everything else aside, you just listen to the clip. Everyone out there, just listen to it if you hadn't already. What's your initial thoughts when you hear James Cook talking about that?
You got to get paid. Whether you agree with him or not, like, you got to get paid. And I will never, ever, as of now, go off on a guy who wants to get paid. In the NFL, you put your body on the line, CTE, all that shit, especially if you're a running back, man. You get so many hits and all that sort of stuff. Like, he's, and he wants to get paid. Now, will the Bills do that? Obviously, we got the whole offseason to figure that, to dissect it and all that sort of stuff. But, in terms of, like, I see some of the comments about, like, oh, he's putting himself out there. So he said, in one sense, I don't want to be a distraction. And then in another sense, maybe you think he is being a distraction by going on this show. But what do you want him to do? He's on the show. They're going to ask him about it. I think a distraction is like, hey, I want a contract. That's what is it? It's like he's gonna come in, he's gonna get questioned by the Bills beat bros, and that's it. And then like when it becomes a distraction, it's if you're holding out. That to me is when it's like a legit, like quote unquote distraction. Who gives a shit if he's working the media? Oh no, like they're gonna get hard pressed questions of the combine next week. Someone's gonna ask Brandon Beane, like, what do you think about this James Cook thing? And Brandon Beane's gonna like, yeah, we gotta talk about it. We'll see. We'd like to have him back. And that's it. That's all. And that's it. That's the big, oh my God, like distraction. That's what's gonna happen there. So that's my take.
First of all, I think for the most part, I agree with almost everything you said. You got to remember this, folks, and I understand it is so easy, and I've done it before. I'm guilty of it. We think of athletes as being greedy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, how much money do you need? You're a multimillionaire, yada, yada, yada. I understand that's how a lot of fans will react a lot of the time. I'll remind you about the NFL being completely different than every other sport. In football or any other sport, if once that ink dries on the contract that you sign, you're getting paid every single dollar that you sign for. I don't give a shit if you play one game and get hurt. You know what I mean? You sign a contract, you're getting it. The NFL is different. The NFL is different. That guaranteed money you're going to get, that signing bonus you're going to get, that's it. You could sign a 2-year or a 4-year, $80 million contract, get cut after 2 years, and you end up seeing maybe half of that contract. Football's the one sport where it's different. You only get one, if you're a great player, maybe 2 big contracts in your career. So I understand football more than any other sport. Get it when you can, while you can. I also think that it's a fair debate. It really is. I personally think he's deserving of the money. I think a lot of people right now are undervaluing him. Buffalo fans, mainly, understandably to an extent. You drafted Ray Davis. You're preparing, maybe you're mentally bracing yourself for something getting ugly, him being gone after this season, and you want to believe that Ray Davis is as good as James Cook. He's not. I don't think he is. I don't think he does some of the things that James Cook does. I think James Cook is a huge part of this offense. But, Joe, and I'll throw it back to you, here's the thing. He only plays 45% of the snaps. Giving a guy $15 million a year who plays literally not even half your team snaps, and he only played more than 60% of the snaps once in 20 games this year, including the playoffs. That's it. And he took him to week 18 to get 1,000 yards. So $15 million a year in some ways feels unreasonable.
Yeah. I mean, look, if they want to give him 10 to 15, I get what he's saying. Like in terms of like running backs aren't respected. They're just not. They're not respected by GMs. Like you have to be, and it's all pro. And it sucks for Barkley and Henry because they're older kind of in a way. They're not coming off their rookie contracts, neither of them, in terms of what they got. It was like, he was franchise Barkley and Henry had a couple different contracts, I believe. But yeah, it's tough to I get what he's saying. Like I feel for him. Like, but it is a position that is easily replaceable. It just is. And and look, Pat, I mean, listen to me. Let's go through the drought real quick with the Bills. We'll keep it Bill centric. Was there a giant drop off when Travis Henry left and Willis McGahee was there? No. Was there a giant drop off between Willis McGahee and Marshawn Lynch? No. Was there a giant drop off between Marshawn Lynch and Fred Jackson? Not really. Fred Jackson to McCoy? No. McCoy to who the hell was after him? Singletary, there was. But it's because the Bills started throwing the ball all over the freaking field. But my point is like those type of backs, they get replaced. And I think the difference between now and it is, I think a lot about the system. They are more committed to running the football now than they were during the Zach Moss days. They just are. And I feel, I think Cook has to have like a 1,800 yard all purpose year for me to go, hey, you need to bring him back. And you just said it. The snap count's not his fault. It's the Bills' fault because they love to use different guys. He better pray or hope that Ty Johnson doesn't re-sign with them and he goes somewhere else. You know what I mean? Because like Ty Johnson eats up a lot of that third down stuff. And I think, look, I might be wrong here, and I get the difference. Like Cook doesn't really block well on third down long, but that's something that you can get better at. I feel. You know what I mean? Like, hey, with to pick up the blitz and
in the NFL for 3 years, though.
Yeah, but he hasn't played that often though. He's got a lot. Look, Cook's played look, he's got back-to-back 1,000 years. He didn't do shit his rookie year. His second year, he didn't come on to the last 6 games when Brady came in. And this year he got in and out. But I think that's something you can kind of learn that, I feel. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Why can't he be a good why can't he be a good blocker? What does that have to do with it? You just got to be tougher. You just got to know where the blitz package is. He's not an idiot, I don't think. And that's it. You can have small linebackers or smaller running backs to pick up blocks. So I don't know what that deal is.
It's said and done, no. I think that's a flaw in his game. I think players just have flaws in their game.
Name one Bills running back or any running back that's had issues with he can't block.
James Cook.
Feel okay. Besides him, and he's not even in there. It feels like to me, and this is where it's going to be interesting how the Bills act with this. I'm going back to what McCourty said in last year. Or whatever, last year Diggs, where he said that the Bills were purposely not getting him the ball. They wanted to show that they could do this without him. And I wonder if there's a part of the Bills are going to be like, you know what? We can show this year we can do this without Cook by having other guys pick up the slack and other guys get the ball more or in pass protection and all that sort of stuff. So,
sure.
It's interesting. But overall though, and sorry to overall, I'm not prone to pay for running backs, but I understand where he's at. He wants to get paid, and I get it. Go get paid, and yeah, you're in a position that's totally disrespected, and it's a dime a dozen position, unfortunately.
For the most part, it is. And look, I think James Cook is a polarizing topic because you can make reasonable cases literally either way. Again, I could come at you and say, well, he doesn't pass block well enough to be out there on third downs. You could say he doesn't play a lot of snaps. Maybe he doesn't have all that much stamina and durability, during games. You could say, again, he plays literally half the snaps. But I also can present to you that I think personally right now, he's at worst a top 10 running back in this league and maybe a top 5 to 7 running back in the NFL. Let's not forget this season. Go back and watch the games. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying anybody right now. If you go back and watch some of the games, he was special in a lot of them. I mean, just some of the way he would turn a 3-yard gain into an 8-yard gain, the way he was hitting holes, his vision, his patience, the home run too. That's the real difference between him and say a Ray Davis. He's hitting these holes and having some vision, and then every once in a while, bam, he pops one outside, touchdown, take it to the house. He got into the end zone 16 times, and it's not like he had 16 carries from inside the 1-yard line. Josh Allen scored a lot of the tush-push touchdowns. Shit, man, James Cook could have had 20 touchdowns rushing this season were it not for some of the tush-push calls. The guy's got a nose for an end zone. He's got the nose to make a big play. I think he's by far the best skilled player on the Bills offense right now outside of Josh Allen, of course. You lost Stephon Diggs the year before, who I thought was your best skill position player, and the offense was fine. Do you really want to, Josh Allen's MVP, and we're talking about getting him weapons and weapons. You're willing to just, because I know a lot of people want to trade him, you're willing to just give up a player. See, I don't agree with you, I guess, when it comes down to running backs are a dime a dozen in some offenses. That I will give you. I don't know that it's a dime a dozen in this offense. I think there's a big difference between Cook and Ray Davis.
We don't know though, because Davis has played one game and he was really good in that game. He hasn't been used all that much because he was a rookie and they got a red shirt that shit all the time. But here's the bottom line: unless he holds out, he's playing next year. You know what I mean? Unless he's like, he's gonna do a bird.
He's under contract and he's getting a big raise too.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid. So it's kind of, I don't want to say much ado about nothing, but if the Bills, and I said this a couple weeks ago, if the Bills had more weapons locked up and they were proven guys, I would say, you know what? Yeah, keep Cole or keep Cook, keep the core here. There is no core. There's really none. In terms of the offensive core, in terms of man, they can't lose this guy, and because it's a running back, and I'm just kind of I feel bad for them. I feel bad in terms of what they go through, but if they had another guy that was young and really good, if Dalton Kincaid came in this season and he was like, oh shit, he's Travis Kelce, then I'd be like, you know what? Hey, I'm cool with him. Or Shakir, Shakir was solid. He was good. Maybe if Shakir was like, hey, this guy's Pro Bowler, I don't know. You know, like there's not enough there where I'm like, I'm scared of where your money's gonna go.
What would you do if you were Brandon Beane, James Cook's agents in your office saying, yo, man, I want $15 million a year, or I'm definitely walking after this season. What are you going to do if you're Brandon Beane right now?
Well, you can't for 15 million. I mean, walking after this season, you see what happens. Like, look, if he comes in and he's great, I mean, look, he could get better. There's nothing against that. But like you said, they have to increase his workloadage. He is not going to get he's not going to get 15. He's not going to get Saquon Barkley stats if he's only playing 45% of the snaps. That's more of the coaching. And that's where what I would suggest, and I'm not in this office, obviously, or a fucking agent. I would tell Cook or the agent, you need to politic your way and get more touches. That way your value goes way up because you're going to get more yardage. You're going to get more rushing yards and all that sort of stuff. And then you'll make more money because you can't, like 45%. You're not going to get 45% of the snaps. You're not going to give him $15 million. You're just not.
Well, I'll say this too. I mean, you know how the NFL works. A lot of what you see is not really what you're getting. It's bullshit. It's window dressing. You could give James Cook a contract that him and his agent, they present it and it's
sure
$15 million. It's 4 years, $60 million. Let's say that shit's front loaded and there's a couple void years in there and the signing bonus is up front, yada, yada, yada. I don't need to get in numbers. Plus, I'm not a capologist, but you get what I'm saying, generally speaking. Yeah. You can make a contract look like something that is really not. Like Von Miller was never going to see $120 million and getting $20 million a year for 6 years. So you could kind of appease James and give him your market value. You can project that the way, some running backs, Gibbs, some of these other running backs, when they get their second contracts, they're going to be getting $15 million, maybe even more. They're going to be getting more money than McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Sure. Gibbs is one. I can't think of other ones, but I know there's other great young running backs in this league. I want to keep him because I think he's a very good player who can even get better and can play a little bit more. And I think he's an important part of this offense. But yeah, there are definitely options. One of them is, right now. So he was 1.16 last year, which that's dirt cheap for what he did. This year, the way the rookie contract is structured, he's going to get $5.57 million. That's what he's scheduled to get as of right now. One option that Brandon Beane could do was say, if he wants to say, you know what, I want another great year from James Cook with no distractions, no potential headaches, no potential holdout. I'll tell you what, James, we will give you a raise this year. We will bump up that salary, add a void year to a contract or some shit like that. And we'll say, we're not going to franchise tag you after this year. That might get him happy, motivated, because you want him motivated and happy at camp. You don't want that distraction at training camp with your best running back. That's an option. Or you could just play hardball, say, you know what, fuck it, dude. You're under contract, and we can also tag you next year $15 million. But that probably creates an ugly situation.
I don't know about this distraction shit. Like this, remember everyone was like, "Oh, Stephon Diggs is going to be a
guy to you." Listen to his words. Does he sound like a guy to you that if he does not get a new contract, does he sound like a guy to you based on what you heard with your ears? Do you get a sense? We don't know. Do you get a sense
hold out
that he might hold out or just be unhappy? Who wants an unhappy guy in the locker room?
I don't think so. Look, I don't think so. He comes from a football family. His brother got paid, he got paid later in his career. I don't know. I'm not going to dissect it in terms of that. Like I said, get paid. Would I pay him $15 million? No. Would I pay him $10 million? Yeah, maybe. But again, I have always stuck
too much. Is he talking too much?
I just told you.
I want 15, and let's just say the Bills want to give him 10 or 11. Is he, by his words right now, going to not accept that because it's going to make him look like he lost any negotiation?
You're asking me if he's talking too much? No, he's not. It's fucking fine. He's on a show. It's look. People need to. I hate to say this, but like we live in this 24/7 news cycle of Bills. The content bros and you and everyone need to dissect this over and over again. I think the common Bills fan that's not on social media has gone to freaking out and they're drinking somewhere and they're like, wake me up when the draft is here or free agency is here. It's not a freaking distraction. The only way, and again, my stance, it's a distraction if he holds out. That is it. He's a professional. He's going to want to come in there. He's going to want to, and he's not an idiot. He knows like running backs aren't getting paid as much as they should, or as he thinks that.
But they're bound to come back, though.
They are, but I don't think it's going to be like you can find guys. Sadly, like look, he's a second rounder, and it's not like like I said, there are so many guys who have just interchanged and that's it. But
Sure.
look, if he wants to get paid, great. I mean, I want to give him 15, but like you said, these contracts are bullshit at the end of the day. It's really about the signing bonus and like how much he's going to get up front. Luckily for the Bills, Terry Pagula's got a freaking giant checkbook. He loves spending money on the Bills players, not the Sabres, but for the Bills, he'll put up a lot of upfront money for them.
Do you, by the way, Roy Collins has an awesome comment in there too. It makes a lot of sense. Bean will decide, not the fans. He's right. At the end of the day, Brandon Bean's not going to listen to you and I and Bill's Mafia on what they do with James Cook.
Won a Super Bowl by now if they listen to
now,
me.
one thing I've seen a lot, whether it's in the comments on the show right now or just a lot of tweets, just general talk as well. Trade his ass. Trade him. Well, I would say this. I don't think a trade would be that easy for the Bills because any team that's trading for James Cook, let's just say Brandon Bean, for the sake of discussion, Brandon Bean and his staff decide, you know what, this guy's going to hold out. This is going to be a problem. He doesn't want to be here unless he's getting $15 million. We ain't giving him that shit. Let's just trade him. Teams out there that will trade for him, you're not going to get great value because A, they got to give you whatever compensation they're going to give you, and B, they're going to have to know that they're going to have to be willing to give James Cook what he wants. They're going to have to give him an extension of contract. Nobody's going to give you a draft pick and not have an extension done with James Cook. Nobody's renting James Cook and giving you any real value for 1 year. Plus, if you're not giving him a new contract, who's to say he's going to be any happier with the Cleveland Browns and wherever the hell you trade him to, the Raiders, whoever it may be?
They can still trade for him and eventually give him an extension. But also keep in mind, there are guys like, hey, look, the Rams, they trade for Von Miller. They traded for Sammy Watkins and let him go and leave when they were free agents the next year. They let them go. Mm-hmm. So it's if you're a team that's one player, I mean, I don't even know who you would consider like one player away with needing a running back. But I'll say this though. Let me just ask this, and we can move on if it's okay with you, unless you have anything else. What would you trade if someone what would you trade Cook for? Let's just say, what would you trade him? Yeah,
I think realistically, if the Bills were to trade James Cook tomorrow, just hypothetically, of course, I would say the best that you could realistically hope to get for him, the best would be a late third or maybe an early fourth and a sixth or something like that. You're not getting you're sure as shit ain't getting a first, and you're not getting a second either. Again, he's got 1 year under contract left, and whoever trades for him is going to have if they're not going to extend him beforehand, they're certainly it's going to be a priority. Yeah. So I really don't think now, hypothetically, if you're taking a big swing trade, he might be a team like, let's just say the Raiders, for an example. Okay. Let's say you're hunting down Max Crosby and the Raiders could use a running back. They want to get a good player back. Pete Carroll's 90,000 years old and he's the head coach right now. They're not trying to end a long-term rebuild. If they're going to trade Max Crosby, they're going to get picks back. They might want a James Cook back. So maybe he'll have value in that regards as part of a bigger deal. But if you're just trading him to try to get draft picks because you can't sign him, I really don't think you're going to get much for him at all.
If someone did bring a second rounder to you, and I get why they want it, but this is just fantasy world. Maybe there's someone traded McCoy for Kiko Alonso once a long time ago. If they were like, here's a late second rounder, would you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now?
Yes.
Yes, because a second round is a big difference than, say, a fourth round. Give me a running back. If you get a running back in the second round of the draft, you're getting one of the top.
What about third round? What about early third round?
Early third, possibly. I guess I need to know though. My preference is to keep James Cook long term because I've seen what he could do. I think he's a very good running back and he still has room to grow more. I think he's borderline special right now. So I don't want to trade him, but I will. By the way, Ralph Wilson, regular commenter on our show. Being will trade Cook.
What's going on down there, Ralph?
Kansas City for a fifth rounder. That's hilarious. Anyway, all right, let's do this. I want to take a quick break, come back. We could talk about James Cook for like a full hour, but I want to get to Joe B's Bills mock off season. He had some really interesting shit in his post with The Athletic, including the big trade that a lot of Bills fans want to see. So on the video side, we're going to be back in like literally 4 seconds. right, I am back here, Joe from Queens, and I'll tell you what, you can tell just by the comments here on the live stream, and just like I said, all the tweets and stuff. This is a polarizing topic with James Cook. It's probably not going to go away because if he does get an extension, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. This can play into the summer, but yeah, I think day one of training camp when it's mandatory, if James Cook's not there, then maybe we should start to have some concern. Until then, not going to be too worried. Anyway, all right, I want to turn our attention to Joe Buscaglia's Athletic. It's an annual thing now. He's done it like 3 or 4 straight years. He does a Bills mock-off season. He goes through from top to bottom when it comes to pay cuts, restructures, cuts, signing into free agents, extensions, trades, who they acquire, and ultimately a draft. It's fascinating stuff pretty much every single year that he does it. I want to run through a couple of the things that he did, and then I want to kind of get your reaction here on some of this. All right. So, and again, I would encourage everybody, if you don't already have a subscription to The Athletic, get it. I mean, articles like this by Joe are worth the price alone. But long story short, he's given Von Miller a pay cut. He's restructuring 3 players: Josh Allen, Deion Dawkins, Ed Oliver. That's going to get the Bills, according to Joe, to roughly $30 million under the cap. I'm not going to go through every single thing. Read the article, but he's cutting Sam Martin, the punter. He's trading Kyrie Elam. Good luck getting anything for him, but maybe there might be some team willing to throw you a 6th or 7th on a first round guy. Who knows? Resignings: Rasul Douglas, that surprised me a little bit. Mac Hollins, Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam, Reed Ferguson. Those are the highlights. And here's the big one, Joe. He trades for Myles Garrett. And also the Bills would be getting a 2026 5th and a 2027 7th. What you're giving up is your first round pick this year, your first round pick next year, a 4th rounder in 2027, and AJ Epinesa. Let's stop there and let's hit on that. So you could be GM. Joe's laying out the scenario and it's fun, but you could be the GM right now. Are you making that trade? Are you, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you're Brandon Beane, and Cleveland says, all right, I will trade you Myles Garrett, but I want 2 of your I want your first this year and next year. So 2 first. I want your 4th next year. I'll give you a 5th and a 7th back. And I also want AJ Epinesa. If you're Brandon Beane, are you making that trade? I feel like I know what you're going to say, but let's confirm it.
Yeah, I'm making that deal. Absolutely. I think, though, when it gets interesting, like, would Cleveland make that deal? And I don't know if Cleveland. I think Cleveland, and this is where it gets interesting. What if Cleveland goes back and goes, you know what? Why do we not? EJ Epinesa is a guy. Like, give me a break. He's a guy as of right now. Like, he's not. I don't think he's gonna get any better. I know he had 6 sacks last year, but like, what if they go back and go, hey, give us Greg Rousseau? Give us Greg Rousseau. Like, would you do that deal? Like, if you do 2 1s and a Greg Rousseau,
that is a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah,
that is. I might have to say no.
Because if I'm Cleveland, that's what I'm going for. If I'm trading him, like, give us Rousseau
and 2 first.
And 2 first. Like, do you like? Why am I going to give you AJ up on that? Like, AJ Epinesa is a guy you can find anyway. Sorry, but that's kind of that's how I would view. But yeah, if I'm a Bills, because you're going to be picking late in the draft anyway. In the first, you should be, unless like Josh Allen breaks his arm. But I haven't seen anything like. That's what I would do if I was Brandon Beane. I wouldn't do it if I was Cleveland, though. Myles Garrett, I mean, they haven't said anything, Cleveland, at least that I know of like, oh yeah, we're trading them. Like, they might be like, screw you.
They're not going to trade them.
They have already said that. Yeah, I'm not on the X as much as you are, but yes, there. If you want that deal, I think you have to give up, a little bit more, because I go by like, defensive ends like him, like they don't get traded all that much. They just don't. Like, you get a guy like him, like Von Miller's the only guy I can remember that I traded. Reddick did when he went but he was like a guy who needed a new contract, and I think was a 3rd rounder from the Eagles to the Jets.
Yep,
that's what it was. And then Von Miller was a 2nd and I think a 3rd from the.
Yeah, I can't remember the other one. I know it was definitely a rounder.
Yeah, and he was a rental, so like it doesn't happen all that much for a guy that caliber. And Myles Garrett's better than those 2 guys are, like, without question. And I just think Yeah, sorry, Big Papa Bill. Yes,
He's just a
Epinesa's
guy.
just a dude. He's
He's
just a
just a
dude.
guy. He's all right. He has some
He's
flashes.
good. He's fine. They could find him in another guy in the
Good
second
enough
round. They
guy.
can.
He's not a guy that I'm not gonna not make a big trade because AJ
Yeah,
Epinesa is involved.
but
I want to go back to what you said though, because since you said it, I've been thinking now. 2 firsts at Zing Stan for Myles Garrett. I don't think you hesitate to make that trade.
sure.
2 firsts and Greg Rizzo, you're asking for a lot.
Yeah,
And my thought is, well, you're not going to sign Greg Rizzo to a lot. There goes your long-term Myles Garrett and Greg Rizzo together defensive edges, because now you got Myles Garrett. You're getting, well, you have AJ Epinesa for another year. And Joe's mock, he's got Vaughn Miller coming back under a pay cut.
yeah.
But still, man, that is a lot to pay, man. And I'm big on taking swings, but 2 firsts and a Pro Bowl caliber-ish defensive end that you got this year for only $13.9 million. That's a good number to have for a guy who does what Greg Rizzo does for 2025. After this year, it's another story.
The also thing you have to consider too is if you make that trade, you then have to decide what are you going to do with Rousseau. Are you going to pay Rousseau? Because then you got Rousseau, Myles Garrett, Ed Oliver making a lot of bank on your front line.
Sure.
And that could be too much money there, like tied up into that. And that's where like the Rousseau thing kind of makes more. If I'm Cleveland again, like Cleveland's going to want a lot. Like, and here's the thing about Cleveland, real quick. Like, I know they look like a disaster, and they are, but let's remember. Last year in 2020, what year? 3, they made the playoffs. If they had like a competent quarterback this year, because Watson was terrible and then Winston was throwing 500 picks, maybe they think they're a little bit better. Like they're closer in terms of that.
Hurt early in the year.
Yeah, and that's it. But you're not sure that's a lot to give up. I think. I have to see how the rest plays out, and you're going to get to like what Joe B's like other free agent signs were, but like I would probably do it, but I am a nut job a little bit. But I'm going to say this: their biggest need is pass rusher. Even though as much as I love the Bills, yes, their biggest need, yeah. Like even though I love offensive doom, your biggest need is a pass rusher. You are not going Can you find a pass rusher at 28, 29? Yes, you can. But I don't think you're going to find a guy who's going to be an impact next year or even the year after. I think it takes a while for defensive linemen to really adjust for most part. Yeah, you'll find a guy who's good off the start. And it's like, what, you're going to wait 2-3 more years? Like, F that. Get the stud that's a defensive player of the year.
Where you draft matters. When you're picking 30 every year around that, you're only going to, if you want an edge rusher, you're probably going to get the 5th, 6th best edge rusher in the draft because the top 3 or 4 are going to be gone before you get on the clock. Look at it from the Cleveland perspective. I would look at it this way. On one hand, you don't want to trade Myles Garrett. They're saying they don't want to trade him. Yeah. But there's a school of thought that organizations at least try, most of them, the good ones, I'm not saying Cleveland's one, you try to do right by the player when you can. Like, you want to trade a player, you want to do right by him. He's been there for a long time. He's one of your best players of franchise history. You definitely don't want to be there. He wants to win. You're not winning. He wants out. The organization might ultimately abide by that. But what I would say is this. If you're trading him and you're Cleveland, you're getting him out of the conference, if at all possible. You're trading him to Washington, Green Bay, or San Francisco, somewhere like that. You're getting him out of the conference. For the Bills to land a Myles Garrett in a trade, they're first of all, there's going to be lots of teams that, if he does become available, there's going to be a shitload of teams that at least bid on him. The Bills, if you're Cleveland, you're going to trade him to the Bills in your conference. Like,
and that's where you're going to have to probably give up more. I mean, you're going to have to
give up a lot more. I mean, the division's out. They're never going to trade him to like Baltimore or Pittsburgh or Cincy. That shit ain't going to ever happen. But in the AFC, the Bills, you're going to have an offer better, maybe significantly better than Washington or Green Bay or some other team like that. So it might take 2 firsts and whether we said AJ Epinesa. So maybe I would look. It's fun to talk about. We're doing it right now. I still don't know if I'm Cleveland, I'm making that trade.
No, I don't. I think if you throw in Rousseau, I think what Cleveland probably wants is they want some team to take Deshaun Watson's contract somehow. And it's like, hey, take his contract, give us a first rounder and Myles Garrett, and like that get him out. And I don't even know, like, I don't even know the optics of that because I think they want to get that freaking contract off those books right now because it's just a disaster.
Maybe. What about if they said, no, we're not giving you Groot, but you don't want AJ Epinesa. We're not giving you Groot. We'll give you James Cook.
Yeah, I do that.
Two first and James Cook.
Yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah. Because again, I feel like I said, I'm not a running back guy. I get a and then you can, just throw in Davis. As I said, I'm not. I'm sorry. Like I feel bad, as I said for running backs, but yeah, I would definitely do that. Yeah. I would rather do Cook than Rousseau because I don't think you can find defensive linemen on a tree. I think you can find running backs.
That I agree with you with. The drop off from James Cook to Ray Davis, hypothetically, or Ty Johnson, a combination of those two would be less than the drop off from Greg Rizzo to AJ Epinesa or Von Miller as your DE2 aside from Myles Garrett. So absolutely, I would do that. Also, look, Max Crosby's name, you could substitute Max Crosby for Myles Garrett as well, because either of those guys would be absolutely tremendous. Free agent signing. He only had one of note or impact, I should say. Derek Barnett's an edge guy. He had the Bills signing him. He basically would be the AJ Epinesa guy. He's like a 5'6" sack guy, third, maybe fourth defensive end. But his notable free agent signing, I want to get your comment on this, is Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got the Bills signing him to kind of a 1-year prove-it-ish type deal. What would be your thoughts on
how much was he giving Hollywood Brown? Did he say what?
Let me look at the article here for reference. And again, because Joe B is incredibly detailed. He's got, let me look here. All right, so we're at the Myles Garrett trade, signing Hollywood Brown. 2-year, he could be a potential home run signing on a 2-year, $18 million deal with heavy incentives for both season should he hit, and a relatively easy out in 2026 if he doesn't. So it looks like he's giving him like 2 years.
Yeah,
about $9 million, about a $9 million year per year receiver.
Sure. Here's my thing. I've always liked Hollywood Brown. I mean, anyone named Hollywood, I like you already. We need to do a Hollywood draft of people who have named Hollywood, like Hollywood from Mannequin. I know you love that movie from the 80s.
Fuck yeah.
It's Kim Cattrall and Chef's Kiss. Then, Hollywood's an interesting guy because the injuries have been an issue for him. He's a great home run threat. I have to look at the other free agents for wide receivers. I don't know. Like a couple of worries for me that jump out at me. One, Josh Allen to me has always had issues at times connecting on deeper throws to like guys who stretch the field. Like it was supposed to be MVS, wasn't anything at all there. It didn't work out. Before that, the Bills, I mean, he had Gabe Davis. They had some nice bombs, obviously. But there's moments where I don't know. I think Hollywood Brown is kind of a little bit of a one-trick pony where all he does is, go 60 yards and like cut, the wind blows and all that sort of shit. And I don't know if
don't have that though.
The Bills don't, but they've tried to have that and it hasn't. And it hasn't. I don't know. Josh Allen has not, while he can throw the ball a mile away, there's a times where, like, I don't know if he can get that. He doesn't connect all that time. I don't think those 50, 60-yard bombs. Like, they missed a lot last year. I remember, I'm going to call it again. I remember the finale in 2023 where, like, Stephon Diggs was wide open and Josh overthrew him by, like, 7 yards. No one talks about that because they rather talk about the Diggs drop in the playoff. But, like, I think at times he's had issues connecting deep. Like really deep. And he's the man, don't get me wrong, but are you going to have that, with him? Like maybe he does get that chemistry with there, but yeah, would I sign up for that?
Would you never have, if you had your choice, Joe, and let's just say purely for the sake of discussion, you could either get Hollywood Brown or Amari Cooper on the exact same 2-year deal. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Amari Cooper. I think Amari is a better all-around. I think he's a better all-around player. I don't get too worried about the injuries yet. I'll buy into the stupid, like, okay, he needs another offseason, chemistry, fucking gets the playbook, all that shit. Hollywood, to me, like, just too many, like, injury concerns with him. Like, just too many. And why are teams just constantly, like, getting rid of him? Like he gets traded to the Cardinals, and then he gets like they don't re-sign him after they gave up a first round pick for Hollywood Brown, and that's a lot, and they let him walk after what 2 years? I think he was there.
Last 3 years he's missed. All right, so last year he only played in 2 regular season games with the Chiefs. 2023 he missed 3 games, and in 2022 he missed 5 games. So he's been hurt the last 3 years. Now, what I will say that I disagree with you with to an extent, at least in his past, like in Baltimore in 2021, he's not just a go run deep and catch the ball guy. He can be a really good receiver. In 2021 with the Ravens, he got 91 passes.
Jesus.
And for just over 1,000 yards. So 11.1. What he excels at beyond, I mean, he does go deep, and he is great, obviously. He's got the speed to take the top off. But what he also is a guy who can separate quick, and he can catch those bubble screens and do some work. Where I would have concern, like you said, I think you're spot on about the injuries. That's a big concern. Is also a little bit like a Curtis Samuel-ish type as well. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be mad about it, put it that way. But
I'll take as many weapons as possible, and I appreciate you. I didn't, when you send me this, as always, I'm lazy. I didn't look up his numbers, but like 90 catchdowns is interesting. Like he didn't do it all on run trick. They love bubble screens in this freaking offense. They think it's the greatest thing of all time.
He also had 67 catches with Arizona in 2022 as well.
Yeah,
so,
but
that was in 12 games.
But again, how many years was he in Arizona for? 2?
Yeah, 2. Yep.
But think about it, Pat. You trade a first rounder for him, and then you let him walk after 2 years.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird to me. But look, would I take him? Sure. But if you're asking me between, and that's a good question. Like, you're asking me between Cooper and him? Like I said, I could. I hate using the term low risk, high reward because I hate that term. I feel like there's a higher reward for Hollywood, whereas Amari, it's a bit of like, what you're going to kind of get with him a little bit, if in a sense. That's kind of how I feel a little bit.
Okay.
But
Tooch, I want to pull up a comment from Tooch. Now, I don't want to get away from Joe B's mock because that's what we're discussing, and he doesn't have them. But Tooch has a good point in the chat. I've heard possibly signing Chris Godwin, which I hate, but that's just me. He's 20.
I love him.
Hanged up. He
saved my fantasy team a couple different times, so I like him.
Let me tell you something. He's a perfect fit for the type of Bills offense that they have. These bubble screens. He's a very physical guy, a very good blocker. He does a lot of things well. He would be a great addition to the team. He'd also probably be a very expensive one.
Is he a slot guy though? I thought he was a slot guy.
Yeah, no, he can.
I mean, I remember Brady used to like that. Brady hooked him up because he was like that Welker guy. I kind of because like if it's in the slot, then you got Shakir. You got to worry about him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
So anyway, that's his big signing is Hollywood Brown, and then to the draft again. We're not going to dissect draft guys. I don't even know who some of these guys are at this point.
You got to steal some information first. Yeah.
Short, in Joe B's mock, he has there's no first round picks, so he's got 2 seconds. He takes a corner in the second round for everyone out there. It's Darian Porter, a corner from Iowa State. And then also a defensive tackle in late round 2. Jordan Phillips, the new younger Jordan Phillips, same name, a DT from Maryland. Then also after the draft, he's looking to get things in terms of extensions. He's looking at Shakir and Groot and Benford. Looking to try to get those done. And he's willing to let things play out with Groot, Bernard, and Cook. Groot, the obvious debate. Is that guy worth $25 million a year? I don't think he is at this point. And then Cook, which you and I have talked about today, and also Bernard, they're not premium positions. They're a little more easily replaceable. So, again, in a nutshell, Vaughn's taking a pay cut. The only significant name they're cutting is not even a real one. Is Sam Martin. They're re-signing Rasul Douglas. They're trading for Myles Garrett. AJ Epinesa is part of that deal with picks. They're signing Hollywood Brown. Tell you what, let's just say quickly here, and then we'll move on to a few other things to wrap up. Let's just say this is the blueprint, and this is exactly how this plays out for the Bills this offseason. This is like a Bills Mafia wet dream scenario as far as I'm concerned. You just went and you got one of the best defensive players in the NFL and Myles Garrett. You added to the offense with Hollywood Brown. You got rid, addition by subtraction, you traded Kyrie Elam. You traded AJ Epinesa. You don't got no first round picks. How's this team not significantly better on both sides of the football too? At least on defense for sure.
I think so. I would try to be more aggressive with Benford. I don't want him to play it out. I think you need to lock him up. You don't. Because that's hey, I get it. Like in terms of, because if you're gonna have Douglas, it's interesting because like Douglas, look, I like that he wanted to resign Douglas. When you and I talked about free agents like a couple weeks ago, I said I wanted Douglas, and if I remember, you weren't really keen on keeping him, and I was
not
like,
really keen on it either.
Yeah, I kind of was like, he was fine. Like get a veteran in there.
I kind of changed my mind though, not because I love him.
Because Joe B told you. That's why. That's you like whenever Joe B says, you're like, I gotta go with Joe B. I'll play.
It's a pretty thin market. If they could come up with a guy in the $4 or $5 million range that can hold it down, you draft the guy with that. Russell Douglas just felt like he slipped to me.
He had a cornerback, Joe B, in the second round, or a defensive tackle.
First pick of the draft. First pick at 56 was a corner from Iowa State. So,
gotcha. Oh yeah, because the Bills have two.
Like that 1 year break, I would suppose to a new corner. You got to draft a corner.
The only issue I could see with the defense is you don't have the DeQuan Jones defensive tackle. That's where you're probably praying Carter is good enough to fit in there because you don't have that right now. Because what?
No,
but who's you tell me? Hold on.
Nothing, huh?
No, but no. I'm saying if DeQuan Jones is leaving, who's replacing him?
He didn't have DeQuan Jones leaving.
Oh, so he's not okay. I thought he was a free agent. Okay.
Funny you say that though, because in my notes I said the two things that I would do differently if I were Brandon Beane. I would have caught Von Miller. I'm not redoing his deal. I'm cutting him. I just at this point, Javon Sullivan will give me 95% of what Von Miller were at a fraction of the cost. And I'm cutting DeQuan Jones, and I'm doing it early because out of respect for him, give him a chance to find a team in March. Don't wait till June or July training camp and then cut him. Cut him now. Let him go find a new team to try to catch on to. But I'm getting rid of him.
I'll say this, though, about Von Miller. The fancy stats said he was like one of the top pass rushers because they just didn't use him all that much. And they didn't, which is weird. I would have used him a little bit more.
Patrick stats says they didn't use him enough. He played 17 snaps against the Ravens and 16 against the Chiefs.
But there is a part of me that does. Hey, look, if you get Myles Garrett and then Von Miller on the side, that's kind of hilarious. And like, who would have thunk that 2-3 years ago? But I do feel like that middle of the Bills defense could be an issue. Like if you want me to really,
it is definitely an issue.
Okay, all right. Well, Jesus Christ, what do you want me to say? Okay, I'm just okay.
I don't
go send a DM to Joe B and yell at him about the defensive middle. Okay,
I'm gonna ask him about on the show. I'm gonna be like, I personally, if it was me, I might be willing to trade for a top name defensive tackle before a top name edge guy.
I want some sacks. Give me some splash plays. I'm a box score stat. I don't need to hear about the cover one bros being like, oh, look, he steals the edge or he steals the interior line so Terrell Bernard can make a play. Fuck that. I want some splash plays. No.
It's gonna be a very interesting offseason for the Bills this year. Last year felt like, look, we're getting rid of everybody and we're gonna try to get a couple guys who could fit in and be complementary players. This year, that might be the case again, but I think everything's on the table. It's possible they could go get a big-time receiver. It's possible they could go get a big-time edge. It's at least on the table this year.
Let me ask you this, and then we can move on.
Yep.
I remember Angry Pat after the draft last year. Mm-hmm. You were very angry. Then you chilled out. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. You were angry at what the Bills did in the draft. You just didn't like it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you were angry about free agency because they didn't do anything in free agency last year. Right. Who the hell? I don't even remember what they.
Matt Collins.
Yeah. How angry are you going to be on a scale of 1 to 10 if the Bills don't do anything in free agency?
10.
10. Are you going to rant? Like, how many days are you giving them in free agency? Like, are you giving them 3 days or 2 days?
That's where I need to demonstrate patience. It doesn't need to get done in the
first. Need to rub one out before the free agency days. So you're not
all the way up until the draft. I will give them until the draft. So April 29th or whatever it is, the end of April. Okay. When the draft is over, if the Bills have not,
you are gonna fail. You're gonna fail badly. I know you. You're gonna have the IV, the X, and you're gonna see people panicking, and then you're gonna panic and you're gonna get angry. I know you.
Listen,
it's all you need is a Joe B podcast and go, hey, they haven't done anything, and you'll be like, you're right, and then you're gonna like get a torch, like a tiki torch, and like start going crazy.
On offense, it sounds boring. I would be good if they ran it back. I'm literally ran it back. And I'm talking get Ty Johnson back, get Matt Collins back, get Amari Cooper back, have the same 15, 16 guys on offense that you had last year. I am perfectly good with that. Defensively, I will lose my ever-loving mind if they don't do something significant on the front four. The linebackers are fine. You could sell me on Rasul Douglas, fine. You could sell me on Cole Bishop. Anything short, and also don't resign DeMar Hamlin. Don't do it. Don't do that. But Cole Bishop, I can live with that. Go get another middle-of-the-road safety for $1.5 million or whatever. But that front four, they better add to the defensive line. They better get a real good edge player, and they better get a better defensive tackle than DaQuan Jones, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's a free agent. They got to have someone who's better than what DaQuan Jones is at 33 years old, 34 years old at this stage of his career. I'll lose my shit if they don't. So, yeah.
Well, you're losing it in 2 days. I'm calling it. You're going to lose it in 2 days after free agency. Everyone, Tooch, Ralph Wilson Sr., Big Papa Bill, in the comments, you hold this. Like 2 days after 48 hours, this man is going to lose it. He will lose it if they don't do anything. He will lose it. I know. He's a hot take machine. He can't help himself. He's going to look at it. His wife's going to be like, chill out, dude. And you're going to be like, oh, and that's it.
I will lose it if and when Myles Garrett gets traded to someone else and or Max Crosby gets traded to someone else. If those guys get traded to, say, I don't know, the Chiefs got
48 hours,
the Bengals or something like that, somewhere, those guys go somewhere and it's not Buffalo, either of those guys, if they both get traded, at that point, that's when I officially lose my shit. Unless they go sign like a Josh Sweat or something like that. They'll be like, all right, even Hassan Reddick, go get an edge. You got to improve. Anyway, I want to move on and get to a couple other things. So, the Four Nations face-off was a big success. Talk about that in a second. But after the tournament was over, and it's got me thinking, my wife watched the overtime with me of the championship game. And afterwards, she asked me, she's a very casual fan. She knows the Sabres, knows some of the players, but you know what I'm saying? She's not really watching. She says, could the Sabres have had Connor McDavid? Like she said, because of Jack Eichel, could the Sabres have had it? And I was like, well, yeah, if they would have had the ping pong lottery ball go their way, they would have had Connor McDavid. That's how they would have had him. It was the luck of the draw. Ping pong ball did not go their way, despite them having the best odds that year to get it. And it really kind of hit me, I mean, every now and then I think about this. Fate or more luck plays such a big role in sports. Like, look at that. Go back to that draft lottery. If that ping pong ball goes the other way, Connor McDavid's a Buffalo Sabre instead of Jack Eichel. There's no way that the Sabres are in a, 13 or 37-year playoff drought, whatever the hell it is right now. There's no way this team does not significantly improve and turn things around if they got lucky. That's what it came down to, was luck. They got unlucky. They had better odds in Edmonton, but Edmonton won. They haven't won a cup yet with McDavid, but he got to the cup. He's the best player in the world. And the Sabres didn't get him. And if they would have, things would have changed. You know what I mean? The fortunes would have changed. One lottery ball bouncing the wrong way is not the only reason the Sabres are in a drought, but they surely wouldn't be in this drought were it not for getting unlucky when it comes to that.
I don't know about that, to be honest with you, Pat. Hold on. First off, I think do I think Connor McDavid's better than Jack Eichel? Yes. Okay, he is. And from going back to 2014 or whatever the hell that stupid that the tank thing happened or whatever, and I was for the tank, I was fine with it. How it got perceived was a little bit weird, or I didn't agree with. But, at that time, it was McDavid. Like, the hype was about McDavid, and then, I remember by, February, it became, both. It was like, you got to get one or the other, and that's it. The Sabres had so many bad miscues throughout that I don't know, to be honest with you. I just don't. They just mess up everything, and they did badly with coaching and trades, and they didn't know who was in charge, and you got Terry Pegula. There's just so much there. Yeah, Connor's been great. Maybe he doesn't get hurt. He never got hurt. And Ralph Wilson Sr., yes, Murray almost cried announcing the Eichel pick. Yeah, well, I will say this, though. He did, when he lost the lottery, I do remember him coming out, and he did not seem thrilled that he lost it at all. He wanted Connor. I remember that. But the Sabres were just they've been such an abomination that like I just don't know. Like that's my the best reaction right now. Like, yeah, if you put him in like the squad that had like 93 points or whatever, like, you know, when that's after Eichel got traded, sure. Like, yeah, he would have been great then, but like they were so bad, and Eichel was a hell of a good player, you know, and I just don't know because they were such a poorly run. It's like, look, if you put Pat Mahomes, I'll give you this example. Let's just say the Bills drafted Pat Mahomes in 2017 or whatever the hell it was. And he's going in there and he's throwing to Zay Jones. He's throwing to Kelvin Benjamin. He's throwing to freaking Charles Clay. And Josh Allen is going to freaking, let's just say they were drafted the same year. Josh Allen's going to Kansas City. Who's going to have a better season? It's going to be Josh Allen in Kansas City. Okay, Pat Mahomes would have gotten killed. Like, again, the Bills would have to have developed and gotten other guys in, like John Brown and all that. And maybe it would have gone up. But, like, that's what you have there. You would have had a diamond in the poo-poo. Like, that's in shit. That's just how it would have been for me. So
I get that.
But I get what you're saying with Faye. Hey, Stevie Johnson doesn't drop that football. We got AJ Green here instead of Marcel Darius, who like got lazy and didn't give a shit anymore after he got paid.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's just fun to think about that with just sports in general. Like the had Connor McDavid, or let's go to Josh Allen, your 2024 NFL MVP right now. The Bills look. Brandon Beane did a lot to get in position to get him, but he also got lucky because at the end of the day, the Cleveland Browns took Baker Mayfield. The New York Jets took Sam Darnold. The Bills got lucky.
The Broncos didn't want
they didn't want a quarterback, and they took Bradley Chubb at 5. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Tampa was willing to trade back. The Bills, Brandon Beane got the right guy, but because he could have easily have taken Rosen, which would have been a fucking all-time. Josh Rosen would have been an all-time disaster. But my point was, luck is so involved in the trajectory of sports franchises. The Bills got lucky to get Josh Allen. Go back to Jim Kelly for older people right now. Jim Kelly goes to the Buffalo Bills. That same draft year, which was a legendary quarterback draft class, fucking Todd Blackledge went to the Chiefs 7th overall. Tony Eason, well, he actually went the next pick, so let's just stick with Todd Blackledge. The Kansas City Chiefs could have easily have taken Jim Kelly, and the Bills could have ended up with either Todd Blackledge or Tony Eason, who was the next pick. He went the very next pick after Jim Kelly to the Patriots. Then what? Are the Bills going to 4 straight Super Bowls with fucking Tony Eason or Todd Blackledge as their quarterback? Sports is crazy the way, like I said, there's an element of luck that's involved in dynasties or just great teams. That's kind of my point.
Let me ask you this, and we can move on. Do you prefer lotteries or do you prefer like worst team gets the first pick?
I prefer lotteries 100%.
Yeah.
Because it just stops. It doesn't completely stop teams from tanking, but it certainly curtails it to some extent because there's players in certain years that are just so much better than the rest that you're just, they're head and shoulders above and you're going to take. I don't always work out. People were tanking for Trevor Lawrence and look, he's okay.
Do you think in our lifetime the NFL will go to a lottery for that first pick?
Oh, that's a good question, man. I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, because like you're right, it's in one sport. Like baseball, I don't know how the fuck baseball works, but like I don't think there's a lottery in baseball. But I know obviously NBA and NHL have lotteries. But like, yeah, like you should tank. Like I think of all those luck, like you said, like the Bills finished what? Like, if they were worse in 2011 when they were terrible, they could have had Cam Newton as the first pick. They could have had him, or in like I know you hate Cam because you're a
scam
dickhead. Oh, you're a dickhead. I mean, he sucks. He sucks as a talking hell. I'll give you that much. But the point is like, yes, it does have a lot of things to do with luck. But yeah, so interesting thing.
I do want to. I mentioned the 4 Nations too. That's kind of stemmed to my wife asking me about if Connor McDavid could have been a saver. Huge success, man. 9.3 million people watched that championship game on Thursday.
That's crazy.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw this. That's more than anyone's ever watched any NHL game ever. That is wild. The highest rating
ever. That's insane.
Ever. Yeah.
More than the Stanley Cup final. Wow, it's crazy.
And look,
I mean, people were hungry for it because look, go into it. Sorry, I don't mean to steal your.
I was going to say, even here in Buffalo, where there was no player vested interest in that championship game. No Tage Thompson probably should have been on the American team, but he didn't play. And on the Canadian side, it was former Sabre Sam Reinhart. That's it. So even with no Sabre, it was wild here in Buffalo on Thursday. Bars restaurants. I've seen all over Facebook, advertisements, big parties. This was really, like I said, bars were packed. People who don't ever watch hockey or really care about it, cared about it. And no, to the point of annoyance in some cases, fucking politicians who do not give a shit about hockey. I
Your
won't watch.
girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What a scumbag. Yeah. Watch. Is she ever going to watch another game for another 12 years? That's the
No.
shit that really bothered me about it. That's the thing. Everything gets politicized nowadays. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But just anyway, my point, bars, restaurants, every place was packed. It was good business, just great enthusiasm. And I'm sure it stems from that Saturday 3 fights in the first 9 seconds between the USA and Canada. Got a lot of people going, but big success, man. I'd love to see other sports, to some extent, at least care about their all-star breaks or games, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for other sports. I'll say this about the NHL, then I'll tell you what I think they could do for alternatives in their sports. I think the NHL, they haven't had this, like, they haven't played in the Olympics in like 12 years or whatever it's been for the pros. It's been a long time. And I think people were very, very hungry to see this. No one of all the 4 major sports, no one is more patriotic than hockey players when it comes to their country. No one is. It's not even close. Like, I'm not a big Olympic guy. Like, I don't have this bravado of I want to have more gold medals. I don't really give a shit, to be honest. But I will definitely, I'll watch hockey because you watch those games and it's like, it's intense. When they're good, when it's everyone, like the All-Stars, it's intense. And people are crazy. Like, they give a shit more. And I don't think you can duplicate that at all in the other sports. Like, look, there's things like what I do. Like, hey, I think in the NBA, I think the world versus the US would be fun because I think part of the issue with the NBA is obviously these players don't want to get hurt, but I think a lot of them is like they're friends with each other. But I don't think American players are as friendly with European players as they are with the people that they grew up in, like the McDonald's tournament or in college. I think it would be a different set in terms of being more intense. And I think Europe has caught up. I mean, almost caught up. Like, if you do an all-star team, that 5 would be awesome for what they have in Europe. It would be really.
It could be there. I just don't think they care enough. They're not going to play defense.
No, but I think you never know. Like, they do it. Football. I saw Jeremy White retweeted this. Like, he talked about maybe doing like college alumni. Like, you go against like maybe like the SEC conference and all that sort of shit. I just don't think you're going to do that. And at the end of the day, I'll be frank, man. I loved the term. It was great. It was fun. I mean, I watched a couple of the games, and I don't watch hockey all that much, to be honest with you. I don't give a shit about the other all-star games, to be honest. I just don't care. Like, why do I give a shit? But I'm saying I don't care that they're shitty. I just don't give a shit. Like, why do I care? Like, I'm sorry.
About the all-star games. I only watch this because of this format. When it was East versus West or like the 3-on-3 shit, I couldn't give a shit about it. But
yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I get it. Like, some people, like, they want to hold on to their childhood. Like, I get it. Like, I like the 90s NBA all-star game. I thought it was great back in the day when you had, like, Kobe and Jordan and all them doing a dunk competition, but it's changed. But you know what? It's not going to ruin it for me. Like, I don't care. It's all those things are a moneymaker. They get corporate sponsors to go there. And look, it was a great thing. My biggest thing is what's the NHL going to do going forward? Like, because obviously next year they got the Olympics. Great. What are they going to do next year? Are they going to do another U.S.? Like, are you going to include Russia? I don't know if they can. They got to talk to Putin. I don't even know how that would work. But like, are they going to do? Either. Yeah, like, because like. It seemed like it was a hit, and look, the NHL, they're whores. Like, they want to make as much money as humanly possible. No offense to the whores out there, but like, I'm just saying, like, they want it. They see this as a hit. They're gonna bleed it, and they're gonna be like, we gotta duplicate it again next year or 2 years from now.
I think the question is, I think hockey got a lot of new fans, real fans. I mean,
we'll see about the new fans shit. Like,
if they stay. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we'll see if they stay.
I remember when Ryan Miller, the last time I cared about the hockey was when Ryan Miller was there in 2011 or 10, whatever, when he was like the cream of the crop. Everyone loved him, and the U.S. went to the finals, and they lost to Canada. And I remember, the hockey's back on the map, but no one gave a shit. So afterwards, so we'll see what happens.
That's me too, to an extent. We'll see.
No, it was a lot of people didn't give a shit. It didn't get new fans in. Like,
9.3 million people didn't watch it. That's all I'm saying.
A big deal,
how it goes going forward. Quick note from Saturday's game. I don't want to talk about the game. An impressive win by the Sabres. I mean, kicked the shit out of the Rangers. Rob Ray, though, took a punch to his face. It went viral because he goes, "Oh, fuck." when he got hit with the puck.
That's a good fleece. I'll give him that. Do you like that fleece he's wearing in the videos?
I think
that's a good fleece. That's a dope fleece.
Yeah, I think that is that's dope as hell. But anyway,
Yeah.
just a tough dude, man. It takes a puck to the face. He's got a golf ball sized lump on his head, and he just keeps on trucking along. Pretty cool shit. Something that a lot of people, including you, I'm sure, don't think are cool. I'll get your quick thoughts on this, and then we'll get to some comments from earlier in the show to put a wrap on it. But some Buffalo Bills players definitely made a buzz, we'll call it, recently. A handful of
look at those photos.
Look at a photo. If you happen to be watching on the video side, I got up on the screen for people who are listening. It was 5 Buffalo Bills players played golf recently with Donald Trump. They posed for a picture. Spencer Brown, Sam Martin, Ryan Vandermart, Dalton Kincaid, who's got a sleeve on his knee, and Tommy Doyle actually just retired over the last week or so. But I don't know. Any quick thoughts on this before we get to some comments?
Oh, I got some quick thoughts on here. And look, for everyone listening in the comments or whatever, I'm not going to get too political in terms of how I feel. If you follow me on Twitter or X, or Blue Sky, you know where I'm at. I found it very interesting that this really didn't get picked up by any local sports or news outlets. And I did some research. It's the only thing I did research for this podcast. That no one did a post. The only post I saw when I did some Googling was the Rochester Democratic Chronicle had a story about this. And then the redneck radio station in Buffalo, YRK, had a story about it, and they framed it as Bills fans are very angry about this, which was kind of hilarious. When it got posted, I saw it first on X, and I looked at the comments, and everyone on X was like, "This is great!" Like, more people were like, it seemed like happier. Then when it made its way to Blue Sky, people were very upset about it, or like, upset is like, I'm saying like they thought it was like yuck. More or less, not like I'm going to disown the Bills. But I was shocked, and I wanted to take your take on it. A lot of the websites, and I'm not talking like Cover One or You or any of them. I'm talking like the Buffalo News, New York State Upstate, or whatever, New York State Upstate, whatever, New York Upstate, whatever it's called. Sorry, my apologies to Perino and Talbot. Didn't have any of that on their website. And I say that in terms of you can argue and go, is it really newsworthy that, oh, yeah, hey, the president goes golfing with these Bills guys or whatever. And like 10, 15 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, if Obama went golfing or George W. Bush went golfing, I think it gets covered. And now it doesn't get covered, or it didn't get covered at all, really. And I have seen some bullshit ass posts, and I've made fun of it on Twitter and on X about like stuff that's been posted, like, oh, like, this billboard came up, or this fan says this, or the Bills donated to this, or like all this shit. I'm like, why is this up here? If you're going to be in that content TMZ type world where stuff that is not newsworthy and you're going to pass yourself on as a journalist website and all that stuff, and you don't put that up there, but you're going to put like all this other crap up that's like that's not really all that interesting, or it's corny, but you're not going to put that up. I have an issue with that, because if you can't be half pregnant. You can't be Bills TMZ, and we're gonna put in like, oh, Josh Allen's fiance made fun of the Jets and the Dolphins and the Patriots, but then you're not gonna put this up because you're scared of the reaction. And I'm not saying like, look, if I'm an editor and I'm like, hey, this is our brand, we want to regurgitate, excuse me, or whatever that word is that we're looking for like getting as much content up as possible. You don't got to go in there and write a piece and go, hey, I think, give your opinion on Trump, whether you love him or not. You can just put a 20-word thing and go, hey, these guys went golfing. They were at Mar-a-Lago, and, Tommy Doyle's with the Make America Great hat or whatever. And that's it. And you peace out, and you get all those hits that you all wanted, because you can't tell me in one sense that, hey, we write what's interesting. We write what's interesting to the fans, because there was a lot of fucking talk when that shit got posted. Way more stuff than like anything else in terms of like social media. People had an opinion about this. And for those sites, and I did a Google, and only the Democratic Chronicle did anything. I thought it was weird. I thought it was kind of interesting, like why they didn't do that. And I know Tim Graham likes to say the expression, like, it's not worth the juice squeezed, or whatever he says all the time.
The juice worth the squeeze.
Yeah, but it's like, you don't got to give an opinion. You can just post it. And I'm just curious. I just don't know why those guys decide. And look, I'm talking about those outlets, like the news stations put anything online, anything. Like they put a fantasy football billboard online because some idiot lost their fantasy football, and they would put anything on for clicks. And you're not going to do this. That doesn't make, and that's so weird to me. And it's either like you're scared because the Bills may not want to be, they might want to be apolitical, the Bills. And if they see like you doing a story on like, oh, these guys were in with Trump, they might say like, oh, don't do that because we don't want people, we want to be apolitical. But like if you're a news journalist and you adapt that philosophy of we gotta put all this stuff out, you gotta put that up. And for them not to put that up, it's I feel that's kind of, like for those outlets, I feel it's kind of interesting that they didn't do it. And no one talked about it like on anything else. And I get why others don't. I get that. But I found it very interesting that like the ones that have all TMZ like coverage didn't do shit in terms of that. I found it interesting.
My honest take on it is this quick honest take too is I don't think it was news, but to your point, which I do agree with you, if you are a website that is posting every little thing that isn't really news anyway, like you said, sit down with popular Bills Mafia fans, you know what I mean? It's those type of things. Or some guy from another team talks makes a derogatory comment, Josh Allen's overrated or something. That's a story. It's not really a story, but you're making stories like that. Then yes, it should have been without opinion. It could have been put up. Let people decide if they're repulsed by it or if they're happy about it or whatever. Let the people who are reading it or seeing it decide for themselves how they should feel about it. Don't direct or slant your commentary towards it. Let people decide how they want to feel about it. But yes, I do agree with you.
If you're a columnist, you probably could. I mean, we don't really have columnists anymore. Like, unfortunately, we don't. But like, if I was a columnist, I would like, you could say like, because it is a kind of a weird, I didn't know how to feel about it, to be honest with you, Pat. Like, and it was kind of weird. Like, it was kind of like, 5-10 years ago, I probably would have been a little bit more upset. But now I'm just kind of like, I know you're, I'm going to try to be, I'm going to try to be apolitical a little bit. But like, it was a lot of like, it was so different, the vibe on X versus Blue Sky.
Oh, it's completely different. The vibes are utterly different. You could say either of them, they're both echo chambers for depending on where you lean or where you stand. That's just what it is. That's not my opinion. I think it's just a fact. But in my opinion, like I said, it's not news to me. But
for those outlets, I mean,
cover some things like you said. Don't be half pregnant. I think that's the term you use. If you're going to post other stuff that's really not news, but this is worthy and clicks and getting all that stuff, there is no reason why. I will say, I would assume anyway, at least with some outlets, the reasons why is they don't want to deal with the blowback. They don't want to deal with the blowback. But I wouldn't because you know how I feel about stuff like that.
But it's weird because like the Buffalo News, I typed in like Bills Donald Trump. The last article they had an article in November, where I guess some fan had a Trump shirt on when he went to the Bills game, and they told him you got to put it inside out or cover it up. Like that was the last thing they covered. And I'm like, what's more of a news story? Like they told him that, or if it's like the Bills players went golfing with the president. And like, I do think of it as a bit of a news story. I think because he's a lightning rod, and that's all I'm going to get into for this podcast. Follow me on Twitter and X if you really want me to see other things, or Blue Sky. But in terms of that, like if George W. Bush is going golfing with, and like at that point, people had their opinions, but it wasn't like this now. I think that's a story. Like that gets posted everywhere. Like, oh hey, like Trent Edwards goes golfing with George W. Bush.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. I think it gets posted, but obviously he's polarizing. But I think you agree with me in terms of like you can't be like this. We're gonna post everything, and then you ignore that. Like, and that's
a news site to me. It's not news, so you shouldn't post it if you're a straight news site. But if you are posting stuff that's not news either, then why are you posting some stuff and then not that? I'll agree with you on that. The last thing I want to say about this, I want to get to some comments too. Is I hate it. I hate the fact that Bills players, whether you agree with them or not, I'm just saying you, the wide audience, whether you agree with who they support or not, I hate the fact that people are going to hate on them because they're playing golf with the president of the United States. I would also say the exact same thing 12 months ago. If those same 5 players were Biden supporters and got on the course with Biden and Republicans started fucking hating on them, I would feel the exact same way. I feel the exact same way if they're playing Barack Obama loved playing basketball. He was notorious for going to the gym, shooting for threes. If Bill's players were hooping with Barack and they got shit for that, I would hate that. Bill Clinton before that, Bush before that. I just grew up in a time where everybody I know times are different now. Yeah. Everyone respected the president. You know, the disagreements, I don't want to get into any kind of political divide talk right now, but you get what I'm saying. It should be a president of the United States. People support who they're going to support. I understand why it's more nuanced and layered than that. I'm not being completely naive and oblivious to life. It just,
I would just say this. I don't think as many people, like the X comment where it got traction was this guy tweeted this out, and he basically said like, "Oh, Bill's Mafia is going to lose their minds," and like, I don't think anyone like what does losing your mind mean? Like, I didn't lose my mind. You know, I'm a left leaner. I thought it was funny. I was like, I'm not shocked. I mean, this is what I kind of assume. Like, you know, 1 billion people voted for this guy. Like, I'm not. But what's losing your mind? Like, I want Spencer Braun to get cut. I want Spencer Braun to be terrible. I don't think anyone in their right mind felt that, unless you were like a bullshit poster troll who wants to say that. And I would look. I've listened to enough podcasts. Like, look, I love the Undertaker's podcast. I know where he leans, but I listen to his podcast. You know what I mean? I'm not going to curse will I make fun of the Bills? Is that losing my mind? Like if Dalton Kincaid makes it like 2 drops on the game and let's just say I don't like Trump and I make a joke about it, is that me losing their mind? But I make it into a Trump joke? I don't know. I can't really think.
Will. The other side, but I'm saying the other side would just the same too. If it would have been the other way around, the other side would too.
What is your version of losing their mind? Making fun of it? Like that's how I felt. That's how I felt. Left-leaning people, they just were like, what are you gonna do?
Levels of making fun. There's making fun like haha funny. Then there's like making fun really nasty, mean-spirited type.
I guess. I mean, I don't know what the mean spirit is. I mean, I think about Cole Beasley when we went back to the COVID stuff, and I could separate Cole Beasley like, okay, I want you to do well for us on the field, but I think you're a taint. Sure. You know, off the field in terms of that. But as I said, I thought it was, and we'll get the comments. I thought it was interesting that like no one of those, I'm not saying like, look, you got to do a radio show where you got to talk about Trump in this for like 20 minutes, but some of those sites that do a lot of bullshit, like filler stuff, like you didn't put any of that up. And like,
I agree. That part, like, I definitely agree with.
Come on.
You could have. If you're going to cover silly stuff that's not really news, that should have been included. Well, I got 6 minutes. I got to get to some of these comments because we got to get off at 90 minutes. So
thank you, sir.
Let me get to some comments. But yeah, look, it is an interesting topic for sure, and it's a hot button topic for sure. And some people are going to have some really strong opinions. Some people don't really care. But I do agree with you. It did lack for attention. I feel like, and some outlets that should have given it to it.
That were scared.
Yeah, let's get to a couple. Yeah, some people probably scared of blowback. I don't want to deal with blowback. I've been pretty open about it. I'm like, to me, it's not
corporate Pat over here.
I thought sports. I'm not trying to get in a divide with my audience over something that has nothing to do with the show. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, Ralph Wilson Sr., James Cook's going where the cash and temperatures are the highest. James Cook is definitely going to go where the cash is the highest. Probably the temperature might match. You try to say he's going to be a Miami Dolphin in a couple of years. Steve Noble. Ralph Macchio is the youngest looking 63-year-old in the world. He really is.
He really is. My wife has said that numerous times while we're watching it, and I was like, Jesus, dude. Like,
he's 63, dude. I Googled it last week. I was like, get the fuck out of here. He's 63.
Johnny Lawrence is old too, and he's
59. You know, I looked 59, it up. Yeah. 58 or 59. That training, not to give away a spoiler, but that training montage, he did a little Rocky training montage in the finale. Everyone go check that out if you haven't already. They looked their age a little bit when they were running around. They were
total misuse of that song, by the way, but I'll get into that later. Go ahead.
Good song, though, man.
Such a good
Mark
song.
Says, looking forward to your Dalton show. Those two gentlemen cover the team fairly. You know what? I like that take because I do think Joe B and Tyler are two of the best. And I think part of the reason why they're the best is because what Mark just said. I know you agree with this, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
They do cover the team objectively. They're not fans of the Bills whatsoever. Like literally,
they cover. And I hate
fandom. There's no deep rooted fandom for either of them.
they're more serious, and that's why I kind of like them in terms of like, there's no fan, but they're not going to go and put up a, what, like this, the shit we were just talking about, like corny shit. Like they're not going to put up a post or anything like that.
Right, exactly. That's they're rolling their eyes at shit like that.
Yeah.
Mark says, I haven't been sober for this live show in weeks.
I wish I was drunk.
I never even asked you though.
It was a Roarback. I get brewing. It's in Rochester. It's a Scotch ale. It's a craft beer. It's got ale with sweet caramel finish. That's it. It's a caramel finish. It's good. It's a darker beer. It's fine. I got it when I went back from Christmas. So it's a good one.
Joe and I talked for a couple minutes before we went on the air live. I said, I had my typical Sunday morning hangover. Wasn't gonna lie.
Yeah.
Would have been a noon show. Would have struggled.
Pat's the drunk. Go ahead.
Big Papa Bill. Matt Collins is going for 701 yards and 8 touchdowns. I'll tell you what, if he does, that means that Keon Coleman didn't step up and that they probably didn't address wide receiver good enough. I don't need Matt Collins, and I like Mac. I don't need your boy having 700 yards. If he's got 700 yards, that means they didn't do anything at receiver.
How proud of yourself are you that you had called Matt Collins going to be an impact guy in like a year ago at this time? Yeah, you got it on. You're gonna put a tattoo on your ass of that. Like I knew about Matt Collins on both cheeks.
I always shout out to Damone Harris, who plays for the Falcons, because I reached out to him and he told me, gave me the lowdown on Mac. He said it was more about opportunity. Matt C says the Bills are not going to get Allen, another big time wide receiver. They are too cheap. They don't ever focus on wide receiver. This sounds like you last year. And Cook is. Did you write this? And Cook is the engine of our offense, and not Allen. I'm telling you, you don't know ball. He's the glue. Okay. I don't know what to say about that. I agree about James Cook being a very important part of the offense. I feel like I was preaching that for most of this show.
I don't know about them doing anything with wide receivers. They might just be like, we're cool because like they went 13-4 with everyone's got to eat a buffet and all that shit. So who knows what they'll do.
I've said, they're not going to. Why would they spend big money if Keon Coleman's going to play a lot? You hope he does. Khalil Shakir is Khalil Shakir. I think Samuel's got a bigger role. They bring back Matt Collins. I don't know if they spend big money on a receiver.
They need to get another guy, though. That's not going to be fun. Always remember what happened in that Texans game, the last game before Cooper got traded. Like, Josh Allen was a disaster.
Agreed. Bill says trade Ed Oliver. He only seems to try when Bill's Mafia calls him out when he's slacking. Well, I call him out plenty. I don't agree with that. I thought Ed Oliver was actually excellent in the playoffs. One of the few guys that actually fucking showed up in Kansas City, too.
I hope maybe your bulletin board material for Ed Oliver. Like, he's got a big fat face of yours. Like, this guy keeps talking me out, talking shit about me.
Mark says we should trade Dwayne Carter for 3 first-round picks. One first-round pick for every year he was a captain at Duke. That was the stupid shit McDermott cares about.
Oh, he loves those.
Translate to the
vibes.
That's
vibes.
It's all
we gotta have good vibes, man.
I didn't like Dwayne Carter last year.
Oh, you liked him for like DraftCom, yeah. But he had
not a big fan of that.
No, you weren't.
And he's got a long way to go. I'm not satisfied with him whatsoever. Ralph said Bernard was 5th in the NFL in missed tackles with 24. Dude is wearing out. And then Bill said Bernard is a good player. He just gets injured too often due to his size. Yeah, look, those are fair points. Bernard gets hurt a lot, and he does miss tackles. And I've said this a few times. I don't think this is talked about enough. Maybe we'll talk about this in a future episode here soon. I thought Terrell Bernard took a step back this year. I didn't think he was nowhere near as good as he was in 2023. I thought he was just all right, including the playoffs. Like, I know he had the big play and the big play against the Ravens, but in the AFC Championship game, just like Greg Rizzo, radio silent for Terrell Bernard. Not good enough, man.
Yeah, I mean he was okay. Like I have concerns about him being undersized. Like he is an undersized linebacker.
Yep.
Would you trade 2 first rounders and Terrell Bernard to Cleveland?
No.
You wouldn't do that? Oh, for Myles
Garrett. No, I want Terrell Bernard.
Okay. Look at you being like, I'm gonna start shit, and I can't trade him though.
Okay. No. I'm not giving up on him, man. I like him. Unless Dorian Williams, let's say, had confidence that he could move to middle linebacker.
I would do it. I'd rather keep Rousseau. I mean, no, AJ Epinesa I would rather get rid of but I would rather keep Rousseau when we were going back before, and then the Terrell Bernard. If you want,
we'll talk. Maybe we'll talk some linebackers.
Find linebackers somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Big thank you as always, Joe from Queens. Thank you, everyone out there in the chat who watch us live. Of course, people who are going to watch or listen to this on demand, you could also leave a comment on the YouTube side or tweet at us any point, man. Appreciate you guys very much. I'll be back with a new episode. By the way, Thursday night, live Imperial Pizza, Damon coach Mike McDonald from Damon is going to be with me. Real quick. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, wow, you got Damon coach coming in.
No, he's the number one team in the country, man. D2 school in the whole country, man. So fun. It was something different, man. Have a nice little conversation with him. But anyway, gonna get out of here. Again, Joe from Queens. Be back. Brand new episode coming at you tomorrow.